I DNF'd Red Rising at page 20. No guilt, no shame, no drama. No, it gets better at page 100. Just give it a chance. No, I heard book 5 is amazing. Just stick with it. It'll pay off. I just closed it and I moved on. We've been told that finishing every book we read is discipline, but I'd argue that it's not. I think it's a habit we pick up in school, and if we don't ever bother questioning it, it can turn our reading life into kind of a resentful obligation. Your reading life is finite. The number of books you'll actually read before you die is a lot smaller than you'll think. And every hour you spend forcing yourself to finish a book is an hour stolen from a book that you could have enjoyed or could have even changed your life. So I want to argue that knowing when a book isn't doing anything for you and should be put aside is a reading skill. So today, I'm begging you, quit more books. Now, like I mentioned before, I think this is a habit, and I think that this habit starts in school where we're assigned books and the expectation is to finish it. Completing the book is completing the assignment. It doesn't matter if you connect with it or not, okay? Now, I've got a personal example from when I went to university. I was assigned All the Pretty Horses by Cormac McCarthy. It's a pretty commonly assigned text, and it's pretty widely accepted that it's, one of the great books of the mid or, second half of the 20th century and so on. But I hated it, okay? Not the story, but the prose. McCarthy is known for having this kind of poetic prose, and it's one of his more poetic books, but to me, it felt like it tries way too hard. I feel like the style is just kind of there and it's done too purposely, and I think it gives what could be a gritty and much more unpleasant story a kind of literary legitimacy. I think if you strip away the poetry, it's a literary leaning Western, which is fine, but the prose just ends up feeling like a kind of costume, if you will. I hated it so much that when it came time to write about it, I had to write a paper. I wrote about how poorly written I thought it was. And here's the thing, looking back, I was a bit harsh and I was a bit naive. I'm not a literary critic, and I certainly wasn't back then, but I had a point. And it's not an unusual criticism of that book and of McCarthy's writing of that period. I've thumbed through it since because, it's a book that gets talked about really widely. It's a book that gets referred to a lot. A lot of people, refer to it often as like the book that gets them into reading. So sometimes I've looked at it again to think like, okay, what did I miss here? But I still agree. I still think it just doesn't work for me at a sentence level. But I wasn't allowed to put it down. I had to finish it. I had to write about it. And what did that produce? Not understanding, not appreciation, but just resistance. Now, the good news is, I went on to read some other McCarthy books in the years that followed, and I did find some of his writing that I did enjoy. Unfortunately, I don't enjoy his writing now because of what we know about him, but that's a different story, okay? That's what forced finishing does. It doesn't create better readers. It creates resentful readers, all right? And I carried that habit with me for years after school. Finish what you start. Serious readers finish their books, right? Good students finish their books, right? You want to be a good student. You want to be a good reader. You want to be a serious reader. But all kidding aside, we do hear this a lot. Like, give the book a chance, push through it. It gets better halfway through. Or, if it's a series, wait until you get to book 5 or book 9 or something like that. But I just think that that's just too much. At some point you have to start asking, give it a fair chance, but fair to whom? Who exactly am I letting down by closing this book? Because finishing a book and connecting with a book are not the same thing. Completion is not comprehension, and pushing through out of guilt is not discipline. It's just stubbornness. The real skill isn't finishing. It's knowing when a book isn't working for you, knowing when it isn't doing anything for you, and being honest enough to act on that. Which brings me back to this book, back to Red Rising. This is a book that I chose. No one assigned it to me. No one pressured me into it. I just picked it up because it's massively popular. It's science fiction. It had some elements that have been described that I thought would work for me. Largely, it's discussion of class issues. Everything about it should have worked for me. But like I said earlier, I DNF'd it at page 20. Why? Well, it had some huge red flags for me, and these are purely subjective. The prose is cliched, in my opinion. The characters are very flat, kind of stock science fiction stereotypes. The dialogue is packed and with made up jargon that just feels kind of gimmicky and like almost like kind of like a low budget TV show that just didn't get a good script. So, by page 20, I had enough. I knew it just wasn't for me. I just close it and I move on. And to me, that feels like progress because if, in the past, I would have pushed through, I would have stuck with it. And I would have been worried to say that I hadn't finished it. I needed to give it a fair shot just to have an opinion about it or just to not feel like a quitter, right? Like nobody wants to be known as a quitter. But I really think you should quit some books. And I think by page 20 of Red Rising, I wasn't being dismissive. I was paying attention and it just wasn't working for me. Here's something else to consider about finishing every book you read. That comes with a price. There's a cost for that. Every hour that you spend forcing yourself to finish something that you're not liking, finish something that's not connecting with you, you could spend reading another book or simply doing something else that's better for you. Your reading life is finite and not in a dramatic way, but in a real way. You're only going to read a certain number of books in your lifetime, and that number is a lot smaller than you think. So the question isn't, should I finish this? The question is, what am I not reading because I'm stuck here? So think about this. Like on my channel, the average viewer is about 40 years old, okay? And let's say that this 40-year-old viewer reads 26 books a year, not an elite consumer or devourer of books, okay? This person probably has a life, but has a solid reading habit. Let's say 2 books a month. I mean, to be honest with you, 2 books a month, that's quite a bit of reading, okay? And then maybe an extra book during the holidays. So that would be 26 books a year. And this person probably is going to read at this pace until they're about 75, because after 75, we don't know what's going to happen. That's when things get interesting upstairs for us, okay? So that's 35 more years of reading at 26 books a year. You don't have to get out your calculator. I can do the math for you. 35 times 26, 910 books left until the gray matter upstairs gets a little bit gooey, okay? So if you know you only have 910 books left in you, suddenly the idea of wasting reading time on costume books or what I call prestigious books or prestige reading, that looks a little different. And there's something else worth saying. Not every DNF is a verdict. Sometimes a book isn't bad for you. It's just not the right time to read it. I'm not the same reader I was 5 years ago. Maybe there's books I picked up a couple of years ago that I didn't like and just weren't working for me. But if I pick them up now, I might really enjoy them and vice versa. Okay. So putting down a book is not a rejection. It's kind of a bookmark in time. You can always come back to it. And this kind of leads me to my next point here. I think DNFing is an act of self-trust. It means you're listening to your own response to a book instead of overriding it. And it means that you trust your curiosity more than your guilt. And if you watch my last video about prestige reading, this is the other side of that coin. Prestige reading says you should read what counts. You should read the serious books, right? DNFing says you're the one that decides what counts. You're the one that decides what works or what's serious reading for you. No one is grading you. No one is checking your good reads. The only audience that matters is you. So here's what I'd like you to think about. Is there a book on your nightstand right now or on your shelf or next to your chair that you're kind of forcing yourself through? Is there one that you're picking up out of obligation instead of desire? Put it down. Give yourself permission. You're not a quitter. You're a reader who's paying attention. And tell me in the comments, what's a book you wish you'd quit sooner? And how fast do you quit a book? Would you quit a book on page 20, like I did with Red Rising? Or are you kind of giving yourself permission to quit something right now? Okay. So if you're interested in thinking more deeply about reading, about culture, and about the inner life, consider liking this video, consider subscribing, consider sharing it with someone else who also might enjoy it, because that's what this channel and my videos are all about.